Well, the president had a bit of a busier day for a president that typically keeps a rather light schedule, celebrating his 100th day in office in the state of Georgia. He went up to Duluth, the Atlanta area, to hold a drive-in car rally in order to tout some of his economic accomplishments, or as he sees them, the large COVID relief bill, but also continue to sell his infrastructure plan, once again providing an addition to the definition of infrastructure.
In the 21st century, infrastructure isn't just steel and concrete, it's people.
However, not everybody was exactly welcoming to the president in Georgia.
End detention now! End detention now!
I agree with you. I'm working on it, man. Give me another 5 days.
The president getting heckled there for the southern border crisis based on his policies. Also, people pointing out his call for a boycott in Georgia based on the Georgia voting laws. Many saying that he's cost the state many jobs while he's there promoting his economic plan that he says will create jobs. Representative Vernon Jones taking to Twitter to say that Joe Biden's visit to Atlanta today is a slap in the face of those who live here. His lies about the election integrity bill are crippling small businesses by encouraging boycotts against Georgia. Other lawmakers here on Capitol Hill also chimed in.
By the way, and Republican candidate for governor of the great state of Georgia.
Yeah, I think we backed into that. Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Let me say this. It shows the hypocrisy in liberals, and it shows the hypocrisy in Joe Biden. Joe Biden criticized President Trump when he took initiatives to ban travel from China. Then here is Joe Biden doing the same thing. Where's the liberal media criticizing him? Joe Biden talked about Jim Crow in Georgia, but it's okay for him to come to Georgia, but Major League Baseball can't come to Georgia. I wish someone would do a demographic check on his neighborhood and see what the diversity is in his neighborhood. And that's why I guess we call him Joe Crow Biden. It's just full of hypocrisy, John, no more, no less. It shows that Joe Biden and the Biden administration for the first 100 days, he's really been in a daze, D-A-Z-E. He's got nothing accomplished. He's created chaos on the borders. And others around the world are not fearing Joe Biden like they fear President Trump, or respect him like they respected President Trump. So it's just, it goes to show you Joe Biden has no leadership.
Vernon, I want to get your reaction to Republican Senator Tim Scott's rebuttal to President Biden's joint address to Congress. Listen to this and then respond.
Hear me clearly. America is not a racist country. It's backwards to fight discrimination with different types of discrimination. And it's wrong to try to use our painful past to dishonestly shut down debates in the present.
You know, almost immediately, Vernon, Black Lives Matter, as well as a whole host of white liberals referred to him as Uncle Tim for the speech. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, the ignorance on them to call him Uncle Tim, because if they knew anything about Uncle Tom was a good man. He saved a lot of black people's lives. But they don't know that because they're ignorant, and they're listening. Blacks are listening to the lies that's been perpetrated and perpetuated, I should say, by white liberals. The other thing is, I disagree with him slightly. There is racism in America, and it's coming from the Democratic Party, because who called him a coon? Who called him Uncle Tim? It's coming from the Democrats. And white liberals, they hide their hands and get blacks to go and attack other blacks. That's to keep black people on the plantation. If they start to think independently, like Tim and myself, then all of a sudden you're a coon, you're Uncle Tom. And so it just goes to show you that there is racism, but it's led by the Democratic Party and its leader, Joe Crow himself. And so the hypocrisy and the way that they have taken off of Tim, who's a great American, hardworking, good U.S. senator, and Black Lives Matter, didn't we find out recently that one of the founders of Black Lives Matter bought a $1.2 million home in a white community?
Yeah.
And wait a minute. I thought she said Black Lives Matter. Why is she living in a white neighborhood? That just goes to show you that she's been fed and funded, like Stacey Abrams, the Wicked Witch of the South, on attacking black people, playing to black people's emotions, putting these false pretenses out here, and just literally just leading blacks where liberals have led us always to nowhere.
Okay. You are running for governor, as we should have mentioned at the very top. I wanted to give you 30 seconds. You know, at the end, they always ask the candidates, you know, give us 30 seconds. So I don't know if Vernon Jones can do this in 30 seconds, but we're going to give it a shot. Give us your pitch for Vernon Jones for governor in Georgia 2022.
Leadership. Brian Kemp cut and ran on the president. He cut and ran on what I call election integrity. And maybe that's why we call him Brian O. Kemp, because he's not a real Republican. And at the same time, if you want to feel the Vern, you want leadership, you want school choice, you want to attack someone who can attack the left and beat Stacey Abrams, go to jonesforgeorgia.com.
Bob, Heather, police reform advocates, including George Floyd's brother and family attorney Ben Crump, met with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, and they say they want to see a bill that, quote, prevents the next George Floyd. And they went from Capitol Hill to the White House to advance their ideas.
These families got to tell their truths. As Polonus Floyd has said many times, our family's blood is on this legislation.
The Crump-led group had a conversation with President Biden and Vice President Harris after meetings on Capitol Hill, including one with Republican Senators Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham.
It got very emotional at times, and they promised them that they were going to try to make meaningful legislation in their families' names.
Crump says South Carolina senators are, quote, willing to stay engaged. But hours earlier, Scott, who's leading the Republican effort to forge a compromise, chose to highlight Democrats' unwillingness to advance his past proposals.
Last year, after the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, I built an even bigger police reform proposal. I extended an olive branch. I offered amendments, but Democrats used a filibuster to block the debate from even happening. My friends across the aisle seem to want the issue more than they wanted a solution. But I'm still working. I'm hopeful that this will be different.
The Crump-led group also met with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and New Jersey Democrat Cory Booker before heading to the White House. And shortly after those meetings, in a sign of bipartisanship, lawmakers, including Booker, gathered in Senator Scott's office to discuss a path forward. Among them, Democrat Senator Dick Durbin and Congresswoman Karen Bass, who wrote police reform legislation in the House. But the reality on Capitol Hill is Republicans and Democrats disagree on what meaningful police reform would entail. And there are two key points of contention in these negotiations. The first, whether individual police officers should lose qualified immunity, which protects them from civil lawsuits. And secondly, whether to lower the standard to criminally convict police officers for misconduct. Bob, Heather, back to you.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.